acting national chairman of the party, Chief Victor Gadam, to hold an emergency national executive committee meeting. At the NEC meeting held at the presidential villa, members on the suggestion of President Buhari dissolved the National Working Committee and appointed a caretaker convention planning committee headed by Yobe State Governor Maybala Buni with Senator John James Apondoede as secretary. The main faction of the NWC, which enjoyed the support of 18 members, was led by late Senator Abiola Jimobi, while ill until he died, National Vice Chairman South South Ntufam Hilad Ita stood in for him. The faction enjoyed the backing of the suspended national chairman, Comrade Adams Oshomole, and the national leader of the APC, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Thus, some observers saw the dissolution of the NWC as targeted against Tinubu and his 2023 presidential ambition. The presidency and the governor, Buni, dismissed this insinuation as bladderdash and insisted that the sack of the NWC was to save APC from implosion. Indeed, Vanguard checks showed that the party, before the dissolution, was facing 11 lawsuits in various courts. Following the dissolution, some members of the NWC who described the NEC as illegal contemplated challenging the decision in court, but later changed their minds over what a source attributed to, "We don't want to be seen as challenging the president's decision." Indeed, Tinubu at the weekend said President Buhari had spoken and we accept his decisions. Just as he said he had not made any decision regarding 2023 because concerns of this hour are momentous enough. In like manner, Oshomole said he has taken the dissolution of the NWC in good faith and reassured the president of his support. And confidence in his leadership remained unshaken. A stalwart of the APC said the dissolution of the NWC has brought forward a battle that would have been fought in 2022 when Oshomole's tenure would have ended. Oshomole made many avoidable mistakes that have caused a setback to those depending on him to prosecute their 2023 aspirations. Although his tenure would have ended before the 2023 election, he will have had a hand in producing his successor. Now that opportunity has been lost, those depending on him will fight hard to have a hand in producing the next NWC, and it's not going to be easy, the source said. The source projected that the national chairmanship will go to the South-South, though the APC no longer has a foothold in the oil-rich region, following the defection of Godwin Obaseki of Edo State to the PDP. According to the source, the Southwest will not accept the chairmanship slot because its leaders are interested in the presidency. In like manner, the source said the North does not seem ready to relinquish power to the South in 2023 and may not accept that position. On the same count, the camps of Fayemi and El-Rufai have started reaching out to stakeholders on the way forward. A close aide of Governor Fayemi said the dissolution of the NWC was done in the interest of the party and it's a welcome development. Also, a source loyal to Amechi, tendencies in APC said at the inception of the APC, the agreement was that the CPC will control power, ACN will control the party, and the NPDP will control the legislature. But now the CPC and the ACN want to control all. This cannot be allowed to continue as we approach 2023. Amechi is one of the largest or biggest pillars, of the APC in the South-South, given the fate of Oshomole. Others include Chief Timipre Silva, Mr. Festus Keyamo, Godswill Akpabio, but Amechi is said to be closest to President Buhari amongst the lords. Well, a lot of everything and nothing concrete, really. But but this is, I think that it's because there's a lot of conjecture into what's possible now. Now that they have dissolved the NWC, people who have their eye on 2023 will do everything they can to ensure that the new NWC will favor them in order for them to be able to secure their dreams, so to say. So they're looking at the most possible candidates. I hear El-Rufai, I hear Tinubu, I hear Amechi. I mean, I won't be surprised if even those who have not been mentioned begin to show up in the much not too distant future.
Well, I think every one of them has rights as APC stalwart.
Oh, yes.
So let the jockeying start. All of them are jostling for that position. Let them go ahead. But for now, it's very fluid to know exactly who eventually will emerge or who people will support. But each of them has his supporters. So as at the time, of course, the right time it will be, we are going to see how it will pan out.
All right, fine facing a minute.
Yes, those names you've mentioned are the key names, the power brokers in the APC. And I believe that amongst themselves, they are talking, their supporters are sending messages, and they are strategizing and testing the waters to see what would work. But then, not the first to have his or her name mentioned will be the person that will get there. There are people that can just come from nowhere, and before you know, they are there. But we wish all of them well.
All right, I've got your thoughts on that.
Well, the name of the vice president is not there. So, and I also
Well,
think
maybe because
that,
they thrown Tinubu in. Maybe because they think Tinubu is there, so the vice president will go quiet.
Annie, you see, it's going to be a fight to finish.
Oh, it will be.
What has happened in Edo State had opened the eyes of some politicians to say, well, if I control the party, I can control who becomes
President,
yes,
maybe.
Because if a sitting governor can be disqualified by the party,
But the party committee
led by the chairman, who is also interested in what happened in his home state, it shows that, Annie, that whoever controls the political party would control who gets what at the end of the day. But I just think that the South will produce the next president. I don't think it will go to the North. The South will produce the next president.
Okay, well, we still have a long way. We'll be watching that. 774,000 job senators reps Keyamo in shouting match. That's in the Vanguard. A mild drama ensued at the National Assembly yesterday as the Minister of State for Labour, Employment and Productivity, Festus Keyamo, engaged lawmakers in a hot verbal exchange over the 774,000 job recruitment by the National Directorate of Employment, NDE. President Muhammadu Buhari had earlier in the year directed that the jobs be created in 774 local government areas of the country, with the minister superintending in it. 4,000 Nigerians under the NDE program. The lawmakers were, however, not satisfied with his explanation, having given the impression he was not in control of the program. Halfway into his explanation, after disclosing that he was aware of only 8 members of the committee, Ladan referred the lawmakers to seek further clarification from the minister. The National Assembly had, in the 2020 budget, appropriated 52 billion for the Special Public Works program for the employment of 734,000 citizens. At this point, Keyamo said his ministry was asked by President Buhari to supervise the recruitment, but the lawmakers disagreed with his declaration, and this sparked off a shouting march. At this point, Keyamo snapped violently, hitting at the table as the lawmakers threw questions at him, accusing him of hijacking the program from NDE and alleging acute lopsidedness in the entire program. The drama took a different dimension when the lawmakers asked that journalists excused the meeting for an executive session with the minister. Keyamo rejected this, insisting that having been openly accused and disgraced, the cameras should remain in the room. His outburst infuriated the lawmakers, who asked that he apologize for his behavior, but Keyamo refused, saying he had done nothing wrong to warrant an apology. Keyamo's subtle threat to walk out of the meeting further irked the lawmakers, who asked him to go if he wanted. When he refused to apologize, the lawmakers reached a resolution asking Keyamo to leave the meeting. Speaking with journalist, Keyamo, who accused the lawmakers of trying to take control of the recruitment under his ministry, said that while he was not opposed to lawmakers investigating the program, he would not allow himself to be teleguided by them, adding that doing so will mean sharing in the powers of President Buhari. He said despite granting the lawmakers 15% of the job placement, they still wanted to hijack the entire process and take over the powers of the president. Now, this is for me, why give the lawmakers 15% of the job placements? There's already a committee that was been set up. The committees also came up with 36 committees for the different states that were supposed to rally around and get 1,000 people per local government. Why do we have to have the lawmakers getting any percentage at all? In any which case, the lawmakers are accusing Keyamo of hijacking the process from the NDE. It did seem as if the NDE was, confused about certain things, because they referred to Keyamo when they got into some murky waters and said, well, on this part, let's ask the Minister of State for Labour. We're not in the know. So I would think that in some places it seems as if the ministry is indeed taking charge.
You see, Annie, I think it is becoming too much for the lawmakers of this country. Anything at all that they don't have control, or the slots are not merely controlled by them. they will be coming up with questions that are very questionable. See, they know that is the ministry. And that was why they directed the questions when the Director General could not answer satisfactorily to them. They now went to the Minister of State for Labor. Why did they go? If the ministry were not in charge of that particular maybe contract or jobs or whatever. Now again, they always have a foundation. There must be a foundation for anything at all. Now, when these things started, they said the minister will control that. The ministry will take charge of that. I think I heard you read that. Good. Now, did it come before the lawmakers and changed? So for me, they were pleading that Keyamo should not be annoyed. He was annoyed. He didn't slap any of them with it as such. But he expressed his annoyance no matter how hot he might have been. Just because of what he finds out that these people are asking for the level they shouldn't have. These particular jobs are meant for Nigerians and not for the lawmakers. And they want to use their position. They now take over. For me, Keyamo behaved well there because he was merely expressing his annoyance over the whole issue and didn't slap anybody. If he had done so, yes, that is exactly where they would have been requesting for his apology and whatever. And perhaps he would have been disciplined by President Buhari.
All right, what are your thoughts there? Fine, President Aminu?
Yes, it will be wrong for the lawmakers to think that the riches of kingly life has taken away the love of the king from his people. This is Keyamo Festus they are talking about. He's been a vocal man in this country before he was appointed into that position. And in as much as I know that the NDE, as a National Director of Employment, should be a parastatal under the Federal Ministry of Labor and Productivity. I'm not very sure. But then I know quite well that in the governmental arrangement, we have ministries, departments, and agencies. So there is no how the National Directorate of Employment will be in charge of this recruitment process without the Ministry of Labor and Productivity supervising and managing, like he said the president had asked them to do. And in as much as we know that this is not a massive something to be done, just 774,000, then the Minister of State is the person that to take charge of those things while the substantive minister concentrates on other things. Now, I know quite well that the lawmakers themselves, they want to have a hand, like they have also stated, and they are not trying to see how they can skew this process. It is unfortunate, but to an extent, I don't blame them. Or even I myself, that I'm not in the ministry or anywhere close to government, I'm also receiving calls that I should help them to get the job. I say, but when they apply, you apply with them. But the irony of the whole business is that of this number of jobs to be created across the country, Rivers State, for instance, has 23 local government areas. It means we'll only be able to turn out 23,000 persons from Rivers State, compared to Kano, where you have 44 HGS and you have 44,000 people that will come out of those processes. But I think they need to see how they can harmonize and make this process very transparent so that ordinary Nigerians can benefit from this process. Because if that job is being created and Empower is also going on, I believe that a lot of Nigerians will have stipends to take home.
Empower is going on, actually.
Yes.
A lot of people are signing in. The lawmakers are allowed to do the oversight function, right? I guess this is what they were trying to do. So at what point is oversight function now being too much of interrogation or trying to hijack the job from the labor minister?
In fact, that's where I disagree with the first two speakers here. That first, who invited who? The lawmakers invited him. They decide the mode. They decide whether there should be camera. They are the one to decide. If you don't want, stand up and go. You see, Annie, we must ask ourselves some serious questions. Are there public funds in what Keyamo would supervise? Yes, there is public funds. They have absolute right to ask questions again and again and again. Whether there should be camera in that place, they have the right to so do. And they have the right to tell the camera people to leave.
Yeah, but Keyamo said, I'm coming. Keyamo's problem was not with asking them to leave. He said, since you already started with the cameras and accused me in front of the cameras, we might as well proceed. No, I mean, I totally will see sense in that. The cameras were there, you accused me. And you tell them to go, then you want to speak without the cameras, say everything here.
And they invited him. He didn't invite them. And they decide what mode of
Not
interview.
midway. Not
no,
midway.
No. Look, are you telling me that what they did is unconstitutional? No. But the thing is, the bottom line for me is that is there public funds in all of this? If there is public funds, they have absolute rights
Exactly.
to prognose into whatever the ministry is doing. You see, Annie, for me, there are ministries who are succeeding under Buhari, and you think they don't have some of this challenge. But a good administrator know how to manage some of these things. Whether camera is there, whether cameras are not there. So I think that there's nothing bad if they say let the cameras leave. Let the cameras leave. You will still have a day outside to address the people, to address the world, to address the same cameras you want to be there. But to now start making it look like it is me against you, for me, that's childish.
Well, you know,
You see,
yeah, Emmanuel. go ahead.
Annie, they invited Keyamo. It's not in doubt. They are doing the oversight function. I'm not sure those are the quarrels Keyamo has. Now, you have brought in, you allowed journalists to come, beam their cameras on you. And then because, see, remember that a clear conscience fears no accusation. And because something has gone in the way you no longer want, you say a journalist, you move out. And this other person you invited is not a kid. He understands what he came to do. And he didn't say, no, I won't appear before you. He complied. And he's telling you, no, we started with these people. So, and it is in the cameras before you that you accused me. Let us finish this thing. Remember, it's not a gathering that involves fight. No. But a gathering that whatever you say will be recorded and all that. But you're telling me to go out. I will not. As a man, I will not leave.
All right, then, Emmanuel.
I say,
It was-
sorry.
it was Festus Keyamo that was
Yes,
there.
I'm telling you, assuming it were myself.
I know that Festus has his own rights. See, Annie, you can say Daniel.
Let's leave
appeared-
this. We'll come back to this. So let's move on. Sorry.
Yes.
We can come back to that. Don't worry. We have here another story. Economic advice council warns against multiple exchange rate as Buhari wants Nigeria's quick exit from underdevelopment. The Presidential Economic Advisory Council yesterday advised the federal government to move away from multiple exchange rates to a unified currency exchange rate. PEAC, in a statement issued by the Senior Special Assistant to the President on Media and Publicity, Malam Garba Shehu, also told the government to do all that was necessary to continue to ease the environment of doing business in the country. This is even as the president appreciated the outstanding support and guidance provided by the PEAC, which he described as a tutorial, urging the members to do more to help the country exit our very terrible state of development. Speaking during a virtual audience with the members of the council, President Buhari said, we're a country characterized by a large population of poor people, serious infrastructure deficit, lack of housing, and a vulnerable economy now haunted by the COVID-19 pandemic and collapse of the oil sector and its effect on the gross domestic product GDP. PAC, while making a presentation to the president, commended the administration for implementing several of its recommendations, even as it presented the government with a number of tough choices to make in order to put the country's economy on a higher growth path. Chairman of the council, Professor Doyin Salami, who led the presentation, specifically expressed delight on the ongoing review of the medium-term expenditure framework and the 2020 budget in view of the disruptions caused by COVID-19, the deregulation of the pump price of premium motor spirit, approval for the implementation of the Orasanya report on the need to rationalize and restructure federal ministries, departments, and agencies, as well as adjustment of the exchange rate of the naira. He noted, however, that more was needed to be done to increase efficiency, coordination, and accountability on the part of MDAs. The PAC welcomed the Economic Sustainability Plan produced by the Economic Sustainability Committee, headed by the Vice President, Professor Yemi Osibajo, and adopted by the Federal Executive Council, but warned that in the implementation of the 2.3 trillion spending plan, there could arise a number of problems, which, if unattended, could hamper smooth implementation. All right. Well, bottom line here is while they appreciate how much the president and his team has engaged on some of the advices they have put forward, they're still worried about the slow drag in the multiple exchange rates. They say this is going to be a major problem in stalling the smooth transition. Emmanuel.
It is natural to know that too many cooks spoil the broth. Whoever, I can't remember, that suggested a unified one is having it on and the way it should be. And I think they should study studiously to also agree, because that will bring out unity amongst whatever it is they are struggling to harness. Because when you have these and the multiple, there's always very easy road for you to fall.
Of course, part of the accusation that has dogged this is that the reason why we have multiple is because a few people who have access to CBN could take it at a lesser rate and then turn it around at a higher rate and make a quick profit. And that is why this has dragged for so long. But let me get to you, Fine Fist, in a minute.
I think that is a sad development. I've heard that too. How some persons that are privileged within the system could get these hard currencies and then exchange. Because there is one thing with hard currency that people must understand and why they must condemn and not allow this to happen. 1 naira, you may think 1 naira is small money, but just 1 naira added on exchange rates, you can build mansion.
Yeah.
So we need to see how we can stop those now. Whoever is having access to those hard currencies from the CBN should be through a direct source. Because in as much as we don't get that done, black market will continue to thrive.
All right, got your thoughts there. Daniel Momo.
Yes, Annie, I think that call should have been done since the day before yesterday. Where you want to pay school fees, it's a different exchange rate. You want to go for medical tourism, it's a different exchange rate. But the most annoying of them all is that those who go to pilgrimage have it at a lesser.
Exactly.
Compared to including business people. For those who go to enjoy themselves, pilgrimage, they get direct, lower, cheaper than people who do business, than people who pay school fees, than people who run around, including the tourism sector.
Industry.
But you now see that people want to go and enjoy themselves, want to go to Israel, want to go to Saudi Arabia, get it at a very cheaper. It didn't start today. Long ago, Obasanjo's time, till today, that I want to go to Saudi Arabia, I would now
on a
have
pilgrimage.
Yes, I will now have to get a cheaper. Why those in business sweat themselves out and they get their exchange rate at the public market? That is very unfortunate. This call ought to have come since day
Long
before
ago. All right, then. Well, we also have joined us Honorable Jeremy Chukwuemeka Okere Esquire. He's a public affairs analyst and legal practitioner based here in Port Harcourt. Good to see you. Good morning.
Good morning, Annie.
All right, then. Well, let's just move on to the next story we'll be looking at here. It says here that rumbles in customs over probe into age, state of origin falsification. There are indications that the management of the Nigerian Customs Service, NCS, is currently investigating some of its officers believed to have enlisted in the service with forged date of origin and date of birth, both of which are standard official requirements for regular evaluation of personnel. The development is coming on the heels of reported discovery of discrepancies in the personnel data of officers across the rank and file, in which 2 deputy controller generals are believed to be involved. But constitutional and legal experts have posited that any attempt to pursue issues of state of origin beyond tolerable limits could backfire, since citizens' right under indigenization law protects them against sanction. They noted that the official emphasis is on nationality and not on state of origin. If the said investigation is on falsification of age, those involved have a case to answer because it is criminal to do so. It is not the same as state of origin. Indigenization allows citizens to lay claim on their birth states other than their state of progenitors or forebearers. And an in-house source knowledgeable in legal matters and who does not want her name to be mentioned said.
Annie, it's a very dicey situation because I'm taking myself as example. I know that I'm not from Rivers State. Yeah, if we follow indigenization, I don't think at any point in time that Rivers people will allow me come and vie for any position.
That's a different thing. It's a federal government agency you're working with now. And you had entered there saying you were a River State person. She's saying that indigenization covers will allow you. That maybe you're from Kwara State,
Good.
and you're here, you grew up here, and you write to River State, indigenization covers you.
Well, that's what they are
Federal,
positing.
if you're working
Thank
with
you. That's what they are positing. But I think there will still be rumbles in it because it's truly not my state of origin. You know, we've talked about citizenship in this country. There's no way one should be discriminated against because of this state of origin and all that. But as far as today is concerned, it remains the way things go.
Well, she said, when you want to clean the system, your approach must be right and above challenge. A man whose parents are from Borno State, born and brought up in Ekiti State, can claim Ekiti. He has the right to indigenize, and the law protects him. What constitutes a citizen is nationality and not state of origin. Is General Sani Abacha ancestrally from Kano State? Is General Ibrahim Babangida from Niger State? So if the probe lays too much emphasis on state of origin, people can challenge unfavorable recommendations made by it. She posited. Let me get to you.
Yeah, I think this is really an issue we need to sound into the minds of the people, because a lot of people may not even want this to be practiced, because we are in a society that has been divided by ethnic enclavages, and that makes it difficult for people to feel free to express themselves when they find themselves where they were not born. And it's a challenge because we are practicing democracy that we call liberal democracy, where citizens can move from one part of the country to the other in search of their daily bread. We are supposed to not focus on some of those things that it kind of cover us into a cocoon, box us to a corner, but to liberalize. But then the challenge remains that it will take time for all those things to happen. In the United States today, you have this being practiced all around. But in Lagos, it's already beginning to take roots. But we believe that with constant sensitization, people opening their minds and not boxing themselves to a corner, we'll be able to have some of these things reliable. But as it is today, it is still difficult to get this done.
Daniel Momo, what do you think?
Yes, Annie, is the border that we have placed on ourselves. Very unnecessary. I'm a Nigerian, so why should I even bother to now begin to say, oh, whether I am not born from this place, whether I am not. Somebody gave birth to a child in the US, automatically becomes a citizen of the United States of America, issued a passport of that country. And so this border we created among ourselves is not helping us, it's not giving us anything. But further to what you said, Annie, read there on the fact that birth certificates of certain persons, only these things exist in the ministry. And that's why I would have loved that most of all these documentations can go digital. People buy their way and in the ministry. When they are close to retirement, they go back, and that's this thing is withdrawn from their file, and then another one is put into the file of that person. It's a terrible thing. You go to certain offices and you are looking at the man, and this man is even close to 70 something.
Yeah, she did say that it's criminal if the age is falsified.
That's what
she
I'm
said
saying.
you can prosecute that, but
we should
her idea was
focus more on that.
On the age. All
That
right.
When people get to a certain age, leave that place.
All right, let me move on. Let me move on to Honorable Jerome Chukwuemeka. Okay.
Yeah, there's some level of contradiction in that write-up, because we have three kinds of citizenship. We have citizenship by birth, by naturalization, and registration. Now, if the writer is talking of naturalization, which makes you to be indigenized, how can you just oppose that with section chapter 2 of the Constitution, which clearly talks about the section that talks about federal character? If a federal job is advertised, and that job is stating that we want quota distribution. Now, when you come and then falsify your local government, that's where you get it. You go to the local government and say, look, I am from here. Did you attach documents to show that you have indigenized? Because there are procedures to become naturalized. You simply go there to lie, and that's perjury. It's lying on that oath. So what is that person talking about?
But if you indigenize properly.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So if you do that, because most of the people who are speaking, they went under pretense. They lied. They committed perjury.
They just said, I've been living here for 20
They
years.
don't even say that. They say they're from there.
I know that's what I'm saying. In their head, they've lived in this place for 20 years.
No,
so why
even
not?
those who came this year, who came to the place this year, because they want the job. They will now go and look for any local government where their name is synonymous with the people. They just falsify. When I was a councillor at my local government, before we passed a law that prevents people from coming to get local government identification letter from our local government because the procedures are not there. You see people trooping into the local governments and then they are taking the positions of the various persons. There's nothing wrong defining where you are. And if you want to say I'm from here, did you attach necessary documents that has made you not naturalized? So you are lying. You are committing perjury. It's a serious crime. So there's nothing different with that person who has falsified his age. They are impartial material. They are the same. So nobody can say, look, you are exempted or whatever because perhaps you are part of that crime. So it is a crime punishable by law because the processes for naturalization is very lengthy, and that I don't think any of these persons have undergone those procedures to actually say, look, you must attach the document to state that. But they go there to pretend and then say, look, I'm from this local government, and then they get in fact they go and liaise with the chiefs or sometimes pay bribe, get the document letter, and then take that a job. Remember, this job is a federal government. Nobody saying you are not a national person. But the Grundnorm, which is the constitution, has said, look, we have federal character principle. And that is why if you have 100 jobs, they do quota. They distribute it. Now you now come assuming they give 5 to River State, give Imo State 5. 4 persons from Imo State will come and claim River State. Now get the one for River State, join to Imo State. Or get the one for River State and join to Anambra. So at the end of the day, you are having false identification letters, eliminating those who are from the origin. At the time when you begin to progress, you see that
I agree with you. You said there are concerns in the customs that some of the geopolitical zones and states whose senior management quota are believed to have been filled by persons with doubtful claim to the zone are feeling shortchanged and want a reversal. So that pretty much sums it up. Let's move on to another story. You have here IG community policing would take off by September. Inspector General of Police, Mr. Mohammed Adamu, has given an assurance that community policing will be ready for takeoff across the country by September. Adamu, who disclosed this yesterday at an interactive session with the Senate Committee on Police Affairs, stated that already the implementation committees of community policing has since been inaugurated in all 36 states of the Federation. All the committees for the community's policing strategy implementation have been inaugurated in all the states of the Federation. We are at the level of selection of the community policing officers now. We hope by August, September, we will complete the process. According to him, I was invited by the Senate Committee on Police Affairs to discuss the implementation strategy of community policing and security challenges, and we briefed them on what we have done so far. The IG also expressed optimism that community policing would take care of everything. The criminals are coming from the communities, which means within the community, if you come from that community, you'll be able to identify ABC are engaged in acts that either would lead to the commission of crime or they are committing the crime. So because you come from the community, you will identify them and let the community policing committee in the ward and the local government level identify them so that they can take them out before they commit the crime. So it is going to be very effective in terms of grassroots police.
I have to say that because a lot of things are made as promises, yet they may not be realized. But let us wait. This is July. September is 2 months away.
Yeah, and I'm happy that this project is eventually coming to limelight in this country. But I believe that by September, like you said, just less than 3 months from now, is a time that is too near, though he still put it that maybe. But then I think we need to put together all necessary legal framework, guidelines, preparation before we can start. In as much as I support this project, I think it might still fail the same way the Nigerian police is failing today to fight crime in the country, because they refuse and fail to bring in technology into the crime fighting system. I would have loved a country and a police system whereby they have internet. All the police officers, police stations across the country are a kind of interconnected in such a way that if crime is committed at point A, the person's name, whatever crime the person committed is key into a system, and it is accessible across the country. Whereby if the person is arrested for another crime any other day, when they key your name into the system, they see the crime you've committed and they know how to handle your issue. But a situation whereby they are not bringing in technology and other innovations into this process, I don't think it might succeed as much as the police have also failed.
All right then, Daniel Momo.
Yes, I've not read the document, but I just hope that because you see now most of the regions adopting a system of policing, i.e. vigilante. We have what the Amotekums are doing at the southwest. And in the southeast has also said they will set up their own body. The north central has also said that. So let me see how that would interplay with what these various regions are coming up with. But I hope that at the end of the day, at least human lives will be saved.
All right. Their thoughts there, Honorable Kerry.
What the policy, community policing will greatly enhance security and then reduce the rate of crime in the community. I'm aware that forms have also been distributed to the various local governments to commence the process of selection of persons that will be enrolled into this community policing, because I know that about 3 weeks ago, forms were distributed in some local governments to some persons in the various communities to see how this can be achieved. But federal government should hasten up to ensure that the September target is achieved. That will help a lot, because the nooks and crannies of various communities are known by the indigenes, and even those who are into these crimes are also known by those who are from the community, since they are engaging everybody in your community to man the area and then work in consonance with the police and other agencies of security. That will be very effective. It will work if it becomes practical, and then ensure that the payment and the reasonable sum is also paid to those who are to be engaged in this proper training. It will greatly reduce crime.
All right, then, for your thoughts. So let's see if we can take one last story from the newspapers and move on. Says here from this day newspaper, despite protest, firm auctions stolen Nigerian artifacts in Paris. Says despite protest from the federal government, auction house Christie's has sold artifacts allegedly stolen from Nigeria, insisting that the transaction was lawful, given that the objects were sold at past auctions. Al Jazeera reported that Christie's has gone ahead with the sale of statues from the Nigerian museum officials. The Nigerian museum officials said were stolen during the country's civil war in the 1960s. Nigeria's National Commission for Museums and Monuments has demanded Christie's stop the sale of the artifacts, which were collected by an art dealer, an advisor of the late French President Jacques Chirac. But Al Jazeera reported that on Monday's auction in Paris, the pair of museum-quality Igbo statues were sold for 212,500 euros, while a major Urobo statue estimated at 900,000 euros failed to sell. The three pieces from Nigeria were among a number of African masterpieces that Christie said came from an important European private collection, and they declined to name. However, the head of the National Museum in Benin City, Mr. Christopher Omogbai, has said the objects were stolen during the Biafran War that raged in the 1960s, and appealed to Christie's and other auction houses to halt the process immediately. They have to repatriate such works and pay compensation to us in the interest of natural justice. This is what Omogbai said.
Well, protest, in the midst of that protest, they still went ahead and sold. So
He said, well, it has been auctioned before severally, before it got to them.
good. But the fact is that if Nigerians are very serious about it, I think the authorities will take it up. They can file a suit against them. And then at the end of it, we see what will happen.
What do you think, Define?
You see, sometimes we are in a country where people don't take things seriously. To me, I think they even delay to take action. Haven't learned we have this, somewhere until now it's been auctioned. These are things that our forefathers suffered to put in place to carve. Today, a lot of young people and even artists are so lazy that they cannot even sit down to work on this kind of artifacts. So I think it is not too late for the government of Nigeria to take action to see how they can recover these things and bring them home for posterity's sake.
All right, then. Daniel.
Yes, the protest for me is not enough. I think under the United Nations too, we would have taken our protest there. Lodging it legally that these things were actually stolen from us. But whether, regardless of the auction, we can still retrieve those things.
Of course.
Let them press the right button.
Well, French President Emmanuel Macron caused an earthquake in the museum world in 2019 by ordering the return of 26 treasuries to Benin Republic, which borders Nigeria. A report he commissioned also recommended the return of objects removed without consent during the colonial periods if their countries of origin asked for them. But of course, France was not our colonial masters. Let me get your
I'm of the view that there's need to make proper negotiation to return them. But if anybody said they were stolen and the person is just saying it was stolen during the Civil War, can anything that if items were taken away during the Civil War, how was it stolen? Because if you are fighting war and then you get booty, so that the period the person is mentioning is my problem.
The person who was getting this booty. The person who was getting
when you conquer a place and then if you collect it during colonial administration, it means that it was stolen because it is there. But if this thing happen in times of war, and then people now take them away during the period of war, in war situations, laws are not. There are few rules of engagement that apply, not all. So that's my worry. But I think that even though you want to auction it, what would have been wrong to now negotiate with the country and then give it back to them, let them pay certain amount of money than auctioning it to a different,
the highest bidder,
person. That it means that you have naturally, deliberately intended to, auction that right from us.
All right. Well, let's quickly run this. Tell me one sector in Nigeria that has improved under this administration. This is from Reno, former aide to ex-president Goodluck Jonathan, Pastor Reno Omokri, Tuesday challenged Nigerians to tell him one sector in the country that has improved since the inception of President Muhammadu Buhari in 2015. Omokri, who described himself as Buhari tormentor, has always been at the forefront of criticisms condemning the structures and administrative operations of the presidency. He had severally questioned Buhari's competence and had come up with a hypothesis that Buhari was not elected legitimately. Similarly, Reno had in one of his videos accused Buhari of committing hate speech. Recalled that Nnamdi Kanu, IPOB leader, was arrested and imprisoned over hate speech and other felonious crimes brought against him by the federal government. Reacting, Reno said he does not support the leader of the indigenous people of Biafra and his Biafra agitation, neither does he support the moves by the federal government to rearrest Kanu over hate speech. Omokri had written and spoken many things against President Muhammadu Buhari and has preferred solutions to Nigeria's problems. However, miffed with the rising cases of insecurity, corruption, poverty, power outage, and another microcosm challenges militating against the growth of the country, the outspoken Reno Omokri opined, I challenge anyone to tell me one sector in Nigeria that has improved under General Buhari. So I'm just going to quickly run around before I get to the news. Any sector that has improved, Emmanuel?
Well, you see...
Do you think none?
I don't know. It can't be none. I think my transformation is taking place in transportation sector.
Okay, transportation.
Yes.
Transportation is in the pipeline. To a very large extent, we've not really experienced any improvement in the transportation sector, but they are doing something.
Good.
But in the area of power, I can see a little improvement.
All right. Got your thoughts, Daniel?
Worse. Roads.
There's improvement.
Far better than what we
All right. Honorable
Yes, there's some level of improvement in agriculture.
All right, then.
Even though I scored the administration very poorly.
Well, the part was what part has improved.
It's work in progress.
We're not scoring them. We just want to know what part has
That's
improved.
what I said. Agriculture. Yes, there's some.
That's what is far.
I think agriculture is.
All right. That's
Making
it.
a
So
headway.
if Reno was listening in, he could hear some of this.
No,
All right.
certainly Reno cannot lay any reach on Buhari's.
Let's hit the newsroom now. It's time for the news update.
What? Are you ready? Today, 95.1 FM, the voice of the people.
Today, 95.1 FM, Port Harcourt. News update.
Hello and good morning. Here's the news update on Today 95.1 FM. I am Annie Abdul Salam. The number of active cases of COVID-19 in Rivers State has reduced to 394. Consequently, the number of discharged cases of the virus in the state has risen to 622. This is as the state has not recorded any case of the infection for the second day in a row. So far, the death toll due to the virus has remained at 38. The Academic Staff Union of Universities is calling on the federal government to set aside a COVID-19 emergency fund to help some state governments prepare ahead of the safe reopening of schools. The president of ASU, Professor Biodu Ogunyemi, made the call on a television program monitored from Port Harcourt. The ASU president said it was not enough for the federal government to advise the states to ensure that measures are put in place before schools are reopened in their states. He said effort must be made to ensure that the states carry out the directive of the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19. The Federal High Court sitting in Abuja has dismissed a suit filed by former Kogi West Senator Dino Melaye challenging some provisions of the controversial Control of Infectious Diseases Bill 2020, widely referred to as the NCDC Bill. Justice Ijeoma Ojukwu upheld the notices of preliminary objection filed against the suit for lack of jurisdiction to hear it. The judge held that the issue raised in it was not justiciable, as the bill could not be subject to litigation until it is signed into law. Melaye had asked the court to delete sections 5, 8, 15, 16, and 17 of the Control of Infectious Disease Bill 2020, which he said constituted a violation or would likely violate his rights under the Nigerian Constitution and the African Charter on Human and People's Rights, as well as the United Nations Declaration of Human Rights. On the foreign scene, the United States has ended sensitive defense exports to Hong Kong for the ramping up pressure in a row over the financial capital's autonomy from China. The U.S. announced the decision hours after China said it will curb visas to some Americans heading to Hong Kong, which is a response to a U.S. move. The United States has been leading a global uproar over a national security law, which Hong Kong activists say will destroy the city's freedoms.
95.1 FM.
Today is here. Yesterday is gone and unrecoverable. Tomorrow, you don't know what it holds, right? You have today. Yes, you heard me. You have today. The indisputable truth is that today is pregnant with both good and bad. You have freely been given today as a gift to see what you will make out of it. Permit me to be positive. Permit me to sideline the negative and magnify the good. Permit me to espouse on today. Today is great. Today is wonderful. Today is targetable and targets can be achieved. Today is domineering and you can be dominant. Today is a conqueror and goals can be conquered. Today is challenging and you can challenge yourself for the better. Today is cheerful. You can choose to be happy. Just in case you're sulking, saddened and feeling sorry for yourself. Enough of the wallow in self-pity. You have today. I mean today. A journey of 1,000 miles starts with a step. Take that step today. Opportunities are everywhere. Just be sensitive. Build on yourself and get ready for the opportunity. Be the best you can be today, because I see the sun smiling on you. This message is powered by Today
95.1 FM.
Voice of the people.